Hey, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the Reawakened Mom podcast. And I'm so excited for my guest today because we go way, way back. Like, not like at the beginning of time or like when we were babies, but like when our kids were babies. We go back to that era. So I'm really excited to bring my guest, Jessica Tyndall, today and just talk about her and what she has going on right now in her life. So welcome, Jessica.
Thanks, Melissa. Nice to see you.
Yeah, I know. Nice to see you too. So a little bit about Jessica, like she is, like I'll give you a little bit of a background and then have her kind of talk a little bit about herself. But she does have 3 kids in the Cape Henlopen School District. She is running for re-election for the school board, and we will get into that. But Jessica and I actually met when we were both in the Moms Club. So I always love to take it back to that because, you know, we were both at home with our kids. I don't think you had all your kids at that point. Yeah, but you know, we met through that because we were looking for that deep connection as being a mom. And Sean had the business and we met, and then we were on the board of the Moms Club together. So I know Jessica before, you know, if you're listening before like the school board, and I would love for her just to share a little bit about herself and her heart because you know, it's not easy, like what she is doing right now, but it never is, right? And like we as moms, like we take on so many roles and we do so many things. And you know, this whole podcast kind of started because, you know, I don't want moms to feel alone and I don't want moms to, you know, also know that like they don't have to do it all, but like being on a school board, being like president and being in the Moms Club and like being on the board of that, like those aren't things you're getting paid for. Like those are literally like acts of service because you care. And so I would love to like, let's jump back before we get into school board stuff. Like tell us a little bit about you and like how you got to be this amazing person that you are, my friend.
Well, thank you. I feel like my cheeks hurt right now from smiling just because I'm remembering all of those old fond memories of being in Moms Club with you and some other, you know, friends that you know, we still have to this day. I remember going to the husband of one of our longtime friends, his 50th birthday a few years ago, and we all got like this old school Moms Club picture together. You remember that?
Yeah.
And it's just like, I still love that picture so much because the women in that picture just helped form who I was as a mom.
Yeah.
And so I am wearing my 1983 sweatshirt from the J. Crew outlet, but I had to buy it because this is the year that I was born. And if for all those mathematicians out there, that means I'll be 40 this summer.
Welcome to the club, my friend.
Yeah, thank you. I'm actually very excited to turn 40. Yeah, it's kind of the big running joke that it's like, oh, well, she's not 40 yet. But so yeah. I'm really excited. But I was quite young compared to some when Austin was born. Austin is my 14, soon to be 15-year-old. So I was 25. And you know, I had, if anyone kind of remembers their 20s, you go from this child to an adult, and there's so many life things that happen, huge life experiences that happen. And, you know, as women, we're all over the map as far as, you know, as far as like what happens in your life. But, you know, I started off graduating from college, getting my first job, marrying my husband, quitting my job to support him in his business. And then the next thing I knew, Austin was knocking on our door. So I was 25 years old. We were building a home, the home that we still live in Milton, Delaware, on family land. And I can vividly remember Austin being like 7 or 8 months, and Sean sitting me down and saying, hey, so I'm thinking that if you're going to do the stay-at-home thing, there's 2 things that need to happen. One, you should probably find some friends because you're doing a lot of shopping at the outlets, and I don't think those people are your friends. They're just there to, you know, help you. But that's
how you spend more money, right?
How you spend money. Yeah, and it's like if you want to keep up this like one income gig we have going on here, like you can't blow all the funds.
Yeah.
So, but that's what it was. I'm a pretty big extrovert, and for the first time in my life, I was you know, in a scenario where day by day I was with an infant and it was just us one-on-one and I loved it.
Yeah.
There were good times and bad. I just didn't have a network of people around me to help me understand the early stages of motherhood, right?
Yeah.
And so looking back, I was probably a little postpartum, and I'm married to a small business owner. So this was early 2009. Austin was born at the end of 2008. And, the economy was kind of tanking and we own a small business, and my husband was taking a deep dive into making sure that our business was stable, which it still is. And, he was working a lot. So it was me and Austin, and I loved my job. And that's kind of the first time that I was teaching Austin different things that I knew on a very, very small level. We had Melissa and Doug puzzles, and I do certain things with them and just trying to enjoy motherhood. But post that conversation, I started researching other things that I could do. And there's a mom that I had connected with. We lived in Georgetown at the time, where my husband actually grew up, in a house that he had purchased right after he graduated college. And so I met this mom at, I think, Miss Debbie's music class. I don't even know if Debbie still does music class, but she was like, hey, let's go to the Bridgeville Library and let's do story time. And so I didn't live as far from Bridgeville as I do now, but we were in Georgetown, so it wasn't too much of a hike. And we'd go to library time, and I don't even think this woman lives around here anymore, but she was like, hey, I heard about this mom's club. Maybe we should check it out and join. And so I believe that we went to kind of the initial meeting and took our babies. And then from there, realized that a lot of the other moms that we were doing baby music class were kind of involved. And so that was our first experience with Moms Club. And again, from there, just some of the women that I initially met are still some of my greatest friends today. And it was nice to just be in the world of moms going through the same things you are, having a cup of coffee and just learning from other humans, having that human connection and feeling like I belonged, and I think that was really important. So then fast forward a few years, we did so many wonderful things. I became your treasurer, I think.
Yeah. I think treasurer, and then I think vice president,
treasurer and vice
we
president.
did all kinds of stuff.
Yeah. And then you stepped down, and I believe that I was your president after that. And I got pregnant with our second, Liam, who's in 5th grade at Milton Elementary. And when I had him, the amount of meals that people brought us, it was amazing. Sean was like, we should have a baby every year.
Yeah.
I don't think I cooked for 2 months. And it was just it's just a true testament of how women take care of other women, and they understand what's going on in people's lives. And it was just I have really, really fond memories of being in Moms Club. And I think that's why my cheeks hurt, because it was a wonderful time in my life. Wonderful.
Yeah, it was so great. And we were talking about this the other day on the phone, and just such great memories. Cause I called you and I was like, I'm just so proud of you. And you're so amazing. I was really emotional that day. And I was like, I have to call Jessica. Because it's great, because you cannot talk to someone for 3, 4, 5 years because your kids go to a different school than my kids. And, they'll be at the high school eventually together. But, if they don't do the same sports at this point in time, you're not seeing a lot of the people that you typically see, because I'm on baseball and then you're soccer wherever you are. So,
you're not even seeing your friends on the weekends. You're seeing just your travel sports moms. Yeah,
you are. So, but it's just great to know, when we were in the Moms Club and stuff together, and when we were, part of that leadership team together, it was great because we would come to my basement and brainstorm and come up with fun ideas and fun things for the chapter. And, and then we would meet at your house, and it was great. So I got to see and experience you firsthand in that leadership role, and how much you really care I don't want to say you are getting nothing in return, because you're not getting a payment, because really it wasn't about the payment, but just seeing other people happy, seeing other people feel supported was really in your heart. So it was so great to kind of see that. And then, I was teaching and then I left teaching, and then I was on the chef board. So I got to work with you a little bit on the chef board, because as being on the chef board, like you as a school board member, it's cool because somebody always needs to be part of that group. So it was fun because I got to work with you again in another capacity, because I love kids as well and used to be a school teacher. And, I love the Cape Henlopen School District and wanted to say, okay, how can I give back? If I'm not teaching, what can I do? So it was great to be able to work with you in that capacity, as well, and kind of see you in action with like your school board hat on.
Thanks. Yeah, it's kind of looking back, and the right now campaigning, I've had to take a deep dive into the past 7 years, because this is my 7th year on the board. And I can explain why it's an odd number in just a minute. But, looking back at all of my information, my goodness, has my life changed in 7 years, and like the things that were happening. But it's a testament to just everything has changed. The past 7 years, 7 years ago, the educational landscape was so different than it is today. And, we're living in a post-COVID era, and the things that happened pre-COVID and post-COVID, they're just different, and the needs are different. So it's it's been interesting for me to take a walk down memory lane. But just so everyone kind of knows, and to paint more of a picture about who I am a 2001 graduate of Indian River High School. So I grew up in Ocean View. I married a 98 graduate from Sussex Central. And then when we got married, if for those that are listening that might not know the rivalry, the Indian River School District is a very large district that has 2 high schools, and they are inter-district rivals. So growing up in small town America, you're like, I don't like that school. I don't like that school. Just the competitiveness and the rivalry was there. So one of the things that I said to him when we first met was, I don't date your people. And he was like, what do you mean your people? I'm like, boys from Sussex Central, duh, and that was circa 2002 when we met. I was the ripe old age of 18.
Oh my gosh.
And here we are 16 years later, married 16 years this year, and we have Cape babies. And
I was gonna say, how did that happen? Were you like, no way, I'm not going there? And he's like, I'm not going there. So you just kind of met.
100%. So Cape was our compromise. And I actually said at the new teacher orientation this year, from what was once was a compromise for us, has been one of the greatest blessings in our life. I am so thrilled that we're living in Milton and where we live, and that we're sending our kids to these schools. They are by far the best schools for my kids to attend. I believe in the mission and everything that's going on with the Cape Henlopen School District. And I just think there's a lot of wonderful opportunities for kids in this area. So I'm just really, I feel like a huge cheerleader for Cape, which I was not a cheerleader growing up, but
we converted you. We convert everyone.
Yeah, I know. I was a hockey player and a softball girl, and I played basketball, but I'm an advocate for kids and community. And I think I'm just a public servant.
Yeah. So let's go back to 2016 then. So like, okay, paint that picture, because you have 3 kids in 2016. Is that correct? Okay. So you have 3 kids. You own a business with your husband. I don't know if you were still president of the Moms Club or still on the Moms Club at that point. Like, really, did you have time to even do this, like jump on the school board? Like, what made you, going back to then, can you remember like what made you want to be on? I say it's like a thankless job, but it's so rewarding. You know what I mean? Like, people are coming at you a lot of the time. They're not necessarily thanking you, and you're getting it from the public. You're getting it from the teachers, like admin, all the different people, maybe in your community, maybe out, like you're trying to be there and be like that spearhead and do great things. But it can be a thankless job, but like the reward of the kids and the support and things that you are getting to create in this community and that you have done over the last 7 years is just amazing. But like, what made you want to be like, I'm going to throw my hat in the ring with 3 young kids, a husband, and we own a business? Like, what made you want to do that?
So I was primarily home with our kids, and it was at the stage where my oldest was in 1st grade. I believe that he was 7, and then Liam was, I have fall babies, so like, thinking school years, it's always
Yeah.
they're a little bit older. But Liam was 4 and Ella was 2. So everyone's about 3 years apart. Someone showed up about every 3 years here. And then once we figured out how that was happening,
Yeah.
we cut that off.
Yeah.
We took care of that. But I had been volunteering in Austin's class because that's the age where they want you in their school and around them all the time. No one's asking me in the 8th grade to come in and volunteer anymore, but I was going into his class and just kind of helping where needed. And, in kindergarten, I was very pregnant with his little sister. So, I was cutting whatever Mrs. Anderson needed. It's one of my favorite, teachers in the whole wide world. I loved her. I don't know if anyone listening has had Mrs. Anderson. She's now at Lewis Elementary School. She was at Milton, but she is just one of the best kindergarten teachers ever. And we've had so many great teachers, but she just holds a special place in my heart. But Austin was in 1st grade and he started to have just some behavioral issues, and I didn't understand kind of how to navigate what was going on with him. Austin is extremely intelligent, a little too smart, and has always kind of been 5 steps ahead of me in what he was doing and kind of where he was growing and how his brain was developing. I honestly thought he was autistic and didn't really understand some of the behaviors that were happening, and didn't understand the resources that Cape had at the time at my disposal. Like, we have an amazing autistic school with so many resources, and I just didn't know how to navigate the system. So, he was having these behavior issues, and it was stressful and really hard. And so when I started taking a little deeper dive into the school system, I felt like I could have been like a really good advocate because I'm outgoing and I ask a lot of questions, and I could just be, I wanted to help other moms that were in that situation. So I thought, I'm going to be on the PTO. I am going to join the PTO. I had been to some meetings, but let's maybe take a leadership role on the PTO and get that going. So it was early spring 2016, and I got a call from a mutual friend who now works for the district, but she wasn't working for the district at the time. She was working for Milford, and she was like, Jess, the lady that is in your seat, she's not filing again. And so kind of the backstory on that is that Noble Prettyman had been the long-standing board member for Area A in the Milton area, and his health had been failing for a few years, and then he passed away in the middle of his term. But he was just wonderful and stubborn enough that he did not want to give his seat up until he absolutely had to, I think, because he just had a passion and a drive for kids. And so then the board appointed Jackie Briscoe in 2015, and she served 1 year and decided to not refile. So the election would have had a 2-year term. And at the time they were 5-year terms. Legislation has changed since all of that. They're now 4-year terms. So, our friend called and was talking to me, and I said, I'm not sure. And she's like, what about Sean? Do you think Sean would do it? And I'm like, oh, I don't know. He's got a lot. We have these 3 little kids. Like, there's a lot going on in our life. And we're very lucky to have family close. And so I have a lot of support, and I kind of knew that the commitment to be on the school board would be a lot, and lots of meetings and lots of conversations, lots of calls. And then that's just kind of like the inter-district things. And then it's the community, like, your involvement in the community and what you've been doing. So we decided as a family that I would try it. And if I was elected, it was only 2 years, it wasn't the 5-year commitment. So I could really see and understand what was going on, and if we could handle the commitment for 2 years as a family. So one other person ran against me that year, and I was elected. And so that began my journey. And 2 years later, I was up for election again, and by that time I had, just enjoyed what I was doing, and it was working with our family dynamic. And I decided to throw my hat in one more time, and I ran unopposed.
Yeah. Let's talk about the learning curve, because I am sure going into anything, especially if you are not an educator, going into anything, there are so many things to learn. First of all, there's all that I know, I think I saw you post or talk about before, like all the acronyms that
Oh
we
my
use in
gosh.
education. Okay, but there's all the ins and outs of like all the legislation that you have to know, all the legal jargon that like you have to learn, all the things the district goes through, like your role, your position, all the different schools that are in your area, all the meetings, like how you can talk at a meeting, how you can't, like the time frame, like you have a pre-meeting before like your school board, like there's all these different things. There has to be a learning curve. Like, do you feel like because there's no way you can just walk in day one and be like, oh, I'm good to go, I know everything. Like, how would you say that learning curve works? Because you've been in this will be your third time, like you are going up for re-election or entering it, but like you know what's going on, you've been a part of it. So let's talk about that learning curve and how that works for like someone new coming in.
Sure. So I am a dietitian by trade. So my job before I started working for my husband's company, I was a dietitian with the Delaware WIC program. So education is not, I am educated, but education is not my wheelhouse or
Yeah.
expertise. And to this day, I still don't claim it to be, because I swear I learn new things all the time.
Yeah.
But one of the women that ran at the same time, who was elected for a different seat, is a former assistant superintendent for the district. And as much knowledge as she had working in the Cape Henlopen School District, she still had a learning curve with how to be a board member and what it means to be a board member. I'd say that it took 2 years for me to fully, and I still don't fully understand, but like to grasp just like what was going on, because, this was the first time that, you have to read Robert's Rules of Order when you are elected to the board, because that's how the form and the decorum of our school board. And so there's just little different facets, and it's policy, it's procedures, it's understanding that our role as a board, as a unit, that you make decisions together on behalf of the school district and not just one individual person. And that your role and what you decide basically affects the superintendent, and then trickles down to district office, that trickles down into the staff at the schools, to the kids, and into the community. So yes, it's a huge learning curve outside the acronyms. People get up at board meetings and talk about these things, and it would take me, it was like I would study for hours before a board meeting, and then I'd have a board meeting and I would take so many notes and write down so many different things, because I just didn't understand. But in my heart, I knew that, I'm an intelligent person that asks a lot of questions. I might not understand it all. I'm not going to pretend to, but I'm going to educate myself as to kind of what's going on and make informed decisions on behalf of the kids in this district.
Yeah. What would you say? So I just was thinking, because I know like during the pandemic, we had conversations. What would you say you're like most proud of? Would it be like, oh my God, getting through a freaking pandemic? But like, what would you say? Because again, like it, being on a board, I would never say that's like an easy job. Like, I think one time you might have asked me like to run for something, or somebody on the board was like, you should run. And I was like, not right now. Like, no, thank you. I'll be on the chef board. I can do that. But like, it's not easy. And so you are in public scrutiny probably for everything. But like, what would you say, like 7 years of your life, like you've given to this district, like what are you most proud of that you have been able to accomplish or be a part of through these last couple of years?
It's so hard.
Is there one, or is it like you have a couple?
It's so hard to narrow down to one, because there are so many great things that I feel like that we're doing, have done, have accomplished, that we're pushing the ball forward, that, other districts just aren't doing. And we are, after last night's meeting, actually the preschool team at the consortium spoke last night, and it's, we have reimagined what preschool looks like in our district, and we're helping and identifying kids that really need our services to start. And it just, the success that they're having, and I just think it's getting ready to explode and expand. I mean, they're going to do play play dates for moms with little kids, like through the consortium. And it's a way to kind of identify buddies that need a little extra assistance in the beginning. And that ultimately, when you identify kids at an early age, you're able to help shape their educational career and how their path and what they do, and just kind of help them at early intervention is something that's really important. But I personally, there's not one thing that I have done singularly, because it is, I'm on a board, and, we talk about things, we discuss things, we vote. Okay, so preschool, I mean, just the kind of like implementation of how we were doing preschool and what we're doing and kind of expanding upon that is something I'm really proud of. And I think in the next few years, it's going to reap benefits in this community that, we're going to be incredibly proud of in the next few years. So let's back up. So one of the first things that I was incredibly proud about was that the wellness center met with me and some of the nurses from BB and said, hey, listen, our wellness center is kind of behind the times when it comes to some of the services that we offer. We need to get board backing to offer some more services. And I said, well, what do you need? And what can you help me with? And it was mainly kind of birth control and kind of talking about like sexual health. And those things are very private. And I don't know how big your podcast expands, but for those in Sussex County, if you live in the Cape Henlopen School District at the time, the only place that you could go if you needed assistance, if you needed help, was the State Service Building in Georgetown. So if you're someone that doesn't have access to a car, doesn't have access to public transportation, it's really tough for you to get there. So our wellness center, we took it to committee, we took it to the board. Our wellness center now has the things that students need, so that they can make educated decisions. And, they meet with a nurse practitioner, they're educated about it, they're asked to, talk to their family about it. And these services aren't, needed for all students in our district, but they're kind of designed for the kids that really need it. Unfortunately, if you don't have an adult that's going to take you to the doctor when you get sick or have strep throat, probably not going to talk to you about, birth control or how to protect yourself against STDs. So there's just options. So I am proud that we have those services available for the kids that need it. I have been pretty influential. It's not a policy that is in practice, but I've been pretty influential and definitely advocated for kind of the Milton schools to make sure that these kids were having the same experiences that some of the other schools in our district were. And it was mainly just kind of making sure that our curriculum was consistent across all 5 of our elementary schools. That kids, when they went to our middle schools and eventually to the high school, were having similar experiences. One of those was field trips. And again, it's not a policy, but it's more like practice that, we can't have 3 schools going to Washington, D.C. and visiting our nation's capital. And then 2 of our other schools are told that their students can't afford it and they can't go. So I'm really proud that now, I've advocated for all kids in all schools, from Slaughter Beach to Dewey Beach, they should be able to have the same experiences.
That's awesome.
I think that voting, I was one of 5 that took the risk and voted to reopen schools in September of 2020. And that's an unpopular opinion with some, but and it was risky. But we were the only district in the entire state to do it.
I was on that call. That was a very long night.
8 hours. It was 8 hours. And I had executive session before that. So, it was a night of not eating and minimal bathroom breaks and, just listening to the community and understanding what the community wanted. And it was hard.
Yeah. Yeah. I can only imagine. Like, I feel like I get like teared up just like thinking about you guys in that position, because it is hard, and it is, a lot of unpopular opinion, but being able to stand up for what you feel is best for the kids and for the community and for their mental health and for their future, when, others might not be doing that. That's really hard to be able to stand up and do that. And so I definitely applaud you guys for that, because it wasn't, at that time I wasn't in education. Like, I had left teaching at that time, so I wasn't teaching. So, I just applaud everyone that was teaching, that was able to stick that out for you guys, for being able to say, okay, we're going to go back, like, we're going to figure this out, like, we can always come back and look at it again, like, we're going to try and make this work for everyone, because that is what's best. And we've seen, what has happened to kids that haven't been in school for long periods of time, and the mental health just across everywhere, during the last, the pandemic since 2020, and how that has affected us. Like, that residual, we still don't know how it's going to affect, kids the next 2, 3, 4 years. So yeah, I know that was very difficult for you guys. And I applaud you guys for listening to the community and not being like, nope, we're just having like, 2-hour board meeting, everybody gets 3 minutes. Like, some people went on and on, and really listening to the community. I think that really showed a lot for you guys, even if people didn't agree with it. It was what was best for the kids, and ultimately, like, a great decision that you guys were applauded for later on, for people looking at being like, how are you doing this? Because we said no, because we didn't think it was possible. And I love that Cape has so many forward thinkers. Like, let's think outside the box. How can we make this happen?
It was a risk, and it was one of those things that, we were presented with the plan, and I just believed in the staff, and I knew that we could rise to the occasion. There were so many unknowns, and it was just a risk that I going into the meeting, I had no idea what I was going to vote, because, so many people were calling me and texting me and just giving differing opinions, and just listening to people in the community. I'm just really proud that we moved forward. And, there were 2 dissenting votes, and eventually those dissenting votes were like, we did the right thing. Like, this is what was best for kids in our community. And, but it was only 70% of our kids that went back, but that, for our district, 70% of the kids going back was huge. I think the after effect, kind of like what you're talking about, and what our district is doing now, and kind of our reaction to, and try to being proactive to what's going on, is, there's a lot of mental health issues that popped up in that time. It was a time of isolation for some. I mean, to all the moms listening out there, I think, like, one of the biggest joys that I know my kids have, and that I've had, is we love playgrounds. We were playground people. And there is a period of time where you couldn't go to a playground. They closed playgrounds. You couldn't kiss your grandmother. You couldn't, they were advising people not to be around other humans. And it's just back to those connections that we make as humans, that it's so important. So we have doubled our mental health team, and our efforts with our kiddos in the past year and a half, and we are making huge strides. But there's a lot of needs, and it's going to take time. It's going to take time. But honestly, we can't address academic needs until mental health needs are taken care of.
Yeah. So I would think, because like, if I was trying to put myself in your shoes, and after what you have gone through in the last 7 years, specifically the last like 3 years, let's just be real. I'm sure those were the hardest years for being on the board. Like, why aren't you just throwing your hat at being like, I'm done? Like, are you crazy? Or are you just that dedicated to this district that you're like, I want more? Like, I am not done yet. There is still more I want to do. Because I would think like some people would not be able to take it, and they'd be like, my term is up. I am done. Can't do it. But like, what is making you keep going back, Jessica? Like, you're wanting more.
Yeah. So, and that is kind of the story nationwide, that board members are like, we're volunteers. A lot of us are volunteers. Like, peace out. I do not have to take or endure this abuse. Like, this is just, I mean, it's good, bad, and ugly. I have stuck my neck out there in the community, and I have very thick skin at this point. But it's hard to be a mom and a community member, and my kids go to these schools. So it hasn't always been a walk in the park. It's definitely not painted with sunshine and rainbows, but a majority of it has been, and it's been a really positive experience. Am I crazy? When I asked my husband, just kind of like, hey, I need to have some like talking points, and he's like, you should go out there and say that normal people, he said that you're probably not the right person because normal people don't want to do this. And I was like, okay, strike that from the record. That's not whatever. Like, this is, I just am stubborn enough, and I really see the benefit of having the people that we have on our current school board and what we're doing and how we're elevating the district and what we're accomplishing together as a district, that I want to stick around to see the success of all of this hard work. And not to mention, like I said earlier, I built on family land. Till death do I part will I be on this property. And I have 3 kids that are vested in what's going on in these schools. And then it's the ripple effect, right? My kids are friends with these kids, and then we're friends with their parents, and then these kids are friends with other kids. Like, this is a small community, and I really care about kids and want to do what's best for all of these kids and make sure that we as a society are successful and that each kid is getting what they need to be successful.
Yeah.
So that's kind of my reasoning. I don't have this hard, fast platform that it's, I want this, I want that. No, we have a really great thing going, and the momentum is there, and we are just, rolling down the highway and picking up speed. And I want to make sure that I'm a part of it moving forward.
And I think what's great, because I did used to be a school teacher. So I know you said like, you're learning things all the time. As an educator, like, we know you have to be so flexible. We also know things change in the education realm, literally like every 3 months. You're like, oh my God, there's a different IEP plus. Oh my goodness, there's a different reading curriculum. Oh my goodness, there's this and that. So like, I feel like you cannot be so hard and fast to be like, these are the things I believe, these are the things I want, because the world of education is constantly changing. Like, our area is constantly changing. Like, we had such an influx of people coming into the district like the last 3 years that it's insane. So like, I was on the building committee for the Sussex Consortium, and we have all these grand ideas, and then we're like, yeah, but there's so much legislation that is part of it that stops you, because we knew as soon as that building was being built, we're going to have to rebuild again, because they only allow so much for growth. So there's a lot of things that you can do as a board, but there's also a lot of things that I feel like in the district too, like sometimes your hands are tied by like what higher ups are saying that you can't control. Right. So I just think, it's great to have that platform of like, I'm here for whatever's coming our way, like whatever we're going to get thrown. You had no idea there was going to be a pandemic. Like, you didn't know this whole mental health crisis, like all the different things that are getting thrown at us all in society and on a board. Like, you do have to be flexible enough to know like what is happening right now, like what is happening right now in technology, AI, all of these different worlds, that like we have to be flexible also as a district, assess the situation, assess all the needs, and then be like, okay, what's our plan? What's our solution? What do we want to come up with? And you guys are working really together as a board on all of that.
And I think it's understanding too that, the needs of the kids today are different than the needs that when I was going through high school, and then when our parents were going through high school, right? And so we're educating kids to go out into a global society, not just what's going on here, but a global society. And we're educating children that are going to have jobs that we can't even fathom right now.
Yeah.
I knew when I was growing up that AI was going to be a thing. Like, Sean is my husband. Sean sent me a rap. I think it's a rap. And I said, did you write this? It's about my campaign. And he's like, Chat GPT did. And
I know, crazy, right?
I now have a rap about my election written by Chat GPT.
Yeah, it's so creepy. In my opinion, I'm like, that's so creepy. I'm like, I just can't get my mind around it yet. I'm like, no, 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 no.
Crazy, crazy. But that's kind of the world that I live in now. We own a web
Yeah.
development agency, and so I am married to the biggest geek I know, and I say that lovingly. But he's just incredibly smart and forward thinking, and that's kind of our world. I mean, we employ 15 remote employees. We have one that lives in Rehoboth Beach most of the year, and then she travels all around Europe because she
Yeah.
still doesn't have kids, and she does her job
Yeah. So
while
cool.
she's traveling, while she's in
Yeah.
Italy, like having experiences. And it's like, whatever you want to do, just as long
Yeah.
as you get your work done, like, we're cool.
Yeah. Cool.
Yeah. So
Well,
it's
I always am like cognizant of the time because I know like we could talk forever, but I promised you that we wouldn't, because we both have things that we have to do after this. We're mamas. So, but I did want to ask you, is there anything that we haven't talked about? Because again, I don't come on here, that my podcast is very conversational. I don't have pre-planned questions. Like here, I did all this research. Like I want to speak from the heart, and really, talk to you and see what comes up. But is there anything that you would like to share or haven't kind of shared that you kind of want to say before we say goodbye?
Sure. So I just want people to educate themselves about the election coming up. There were some articles that came out today in the Cape Gazette, and it's kind of a side-by-side comparison of what's going on and who the candidates are, and just to make an informed decision as to who is going to represent your children for the next 4 years. And other than that, I am the current Area A representative. So I represent Milton and a little bit north. But the polling places on May 9th will be open at Mariner Middle School, Cape Henlopen High School, Rehoboth Elementary, and the Fire Hall on Savannah Road. It is open to anyone in the district. Any resident of the Cape Henlopen School District can vote from 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. So please tell your neighbors, your friends, your family. Every vote counts, and it's important.
Yeah. Awesome. How can people find you? So if they want to look up more stuff about you, like, do you have a place where they can go? I mean, you do you own a web.
I do. So justtyndall.com is out there for the world. I also have a page on Facebook that I post things about, and it can be very informative for people in our district. So
awesome. And I'll make sure that those go in the show notes so people can easily just like click on them and not have to go searching and things like that. So thank you so much for coming today and just chatting with me and reminiscing about old times and, good times and all the things. And I appreciate you coming here and just having an open, honest conversation.
Thank you so much. Don't hesitate to ever reach out. It's so great to see you and hear you.
Yeah, you too. All right. See you, Jess.
Bye.